Thank you very much indeed, Ryan. I'd like to welcome you all to the meeting of the Georges River Local Planning Panel meeting of the 3rd of February 2022, which due to COVID is being held electronically. My name is Sue Francis. I'm the chair of this panel. The panel members are located remotely in order to satisfy the Australian Government and New South Wales health regulations for consistency with directions for non-essential gatherings and meetings. The panel today is made up of myself and Michael Levy, who is an expert panel member, Anthony Hudson, who is an expert panel member, and Cameron Jones being a community representative on this panel. And where the panel have been appointed by the Minister for Planning to determine specified development applications, including the development applications that are on the agenda today in accordance with the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. I'm required to advise you that under the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act, this meeting of the panel is being live streamed and will be made available on Council's website. And in accordance with the revised meeting protocols for COVID-19, interested parties wishing to make representations to the panel were requested to register a summary of their interests, and a total of 6 registrations were received and forwarded to the panel. The panel have reviewed the registrations and advised the council officer wish to speak to the following persons. And I'll just list the persons out. So that's the first person is in relation to 10 Spalding Crescent, and that's Wagi Ayubi. My apologies if I'm pronouncing this wrong. And again, for 10 Spalding Crescent is Nadia Hassan. For 1034 Forest Road, Lugano is Ray Philpott and Suzanne Garcia. For 50 Thurlow Street, I have Andrew Martin and Derek Osiabel. The panel have received 4 completed assessment reports that we're going to be dealing with today, and the panel members have undertaken their own site inspections for the sites and nearby areas. We'll deal with the applications in order, and that is basically in the order that I just read them, which is 10 Spalding Crescent, 1034 Forest Road, Lugano, 50 Thurlow Street, Riverwood, and the last on the agenda is 296 Forest Road, Hurstville, which I don't have anyone who wishes to make any representations on. And as required by the Local Planning Panel Code of Conduct, members are required to disclose any conflicts of interest in respect of any matter on the agenda for the panel today, and the forms are prescribed by the New South Wales Department of Planning and being completed and are tabled for council to be included online with the minutes of this meeting, and there are no conflicts in relation to any of the items. Now, as we progress through the matters on the agenda, only those persons who have registered to speak will verbally be able to make any representations by being unmuted by Kath. And I would ask those persons that are invited to speak to the panel via Teams, as it is today, that they speak clearly and of a volume that will project into the speakers to assist those viewing the live streaming so they can hear clearly what is being said. At this time, I remind persons that any defamatory, discriminatory or offensive language used may result in the author being exposed to liability, for which council and the panel take no responsibility. And in terms of how long you have to speak, speakers will be permitted to speak for 3 minutes, after which the members of the panel may wish to ask some questions. And once we've heard all the oral submissions on a particular application, we'll then move on to the next one. But the members of the public are free to continue to listen to the broadcast. The determination of the applications will be made in closed session, which will not be live streamed or recorded, but the determinations will be available on the council's website within 24 hours of this meeting. Now, I think we will now call the first item, which is for 10 Spalding Crescent, Hurstville Grove, for the demolition works and construction of dual occupancy. And I have 2 speakers in relation to this. And the first speaker is Wagi Ayubi. Kath, can we call Wagi?
He's ready. He's online, Sue. I've just got to try and get him unmuted.
Can I also remind all panel members to have their their microphones on mute until unless they were speaking. Thanks. If we're having trouble with Wagi, perhaps we'll try Nadia, and then perhaps he can fix his mute problem.
IT, Guru, you're able to assist. It appears that we're unable to unmute the participants.
Guru's on it.
Hello?
Okay, you're on.
Yes, hi.
Hi, hello there. Thank you. Sorry for that. IT is always a wonderful thing. Okay, so you have 3 minutes. Any representations you wish to make to the panel, please do now.
Yes, okay, look, I just wanted to basically follow up on the council's issues that they've raised with the DAs. Firstly, there are a number of issues, I guess, in relation to planning and FSR and things like that. I'm not going to talk about those too much because I did tell the planner that was on the project that those issues can be easily satisfied with greater setbacks and FSR sort of making the building smaller. I think the primary issues that we're having at the moment is two, which is a stormwater and a tree issue that's on the property, a multiple tree. Stormwater, obviously, we've gone back to our consultants and we've had discussions, and they seem to think that there is a solution out there, but council, in some, in the discussions that I had with council, they were not willing to consider any amendments, whether it be regards to any stormwater planning or any tree sort of amendments. So they had reached a decision, and I've done my fair share of DA applications, and usually there is some sort of, back and forward sort of process design sort of restrictions that we need to put in place for certain things. But this wasn't the case, which is probably my first issue that I had with this decision. Primarily also the tree being the main issue. You can see, I don't know if you looked at the site in depth, but there are multiple trees on this site. And apart from them being a burden on the actual property itself, is actually in terms of development, there's very limited solutions for development on that property. This property itself, without the trees, is a good property for a dual occupancy. And I think there isn't an issue in terms of its site restraints that would limit us for putting a sort of a dual occupancy of that nature. I guess the primary issue is the tree and the limit that these trees are having onto the property is restricting, I guess, what the options that the client has available for this development, for any type of development, let alone the dual occupancy. The conditions of the trees and that, I mean, there are issues with those trees in general in terms of its condition and its impact onto the surrounding area, the services that it's affecting. I guess the primary issue that I have is that we never got the opportunity to have these discussions with council in relation to coming up with a viable solution. And we did suggest, and we did even try to, we in our application tried to keep one tree, and we had a discussion about keeping other trees, but again, there was no opportunity for us to negotiate or to redesign, which is unfair for a development on this site. I think that's probably in summary, that's where my case is in terms of what the decision that council has made on it. And we definitely think that there is a solution out there that can make this work.
Okay, thank you for that. Are you suggesting then to the panel that you want the matter deferred?
If council are going to give us opportunity to create, to give us amended documentation to support something, this type of development, then yes, obviously, yeah, that's what
I think. I think it's the other way around. I think it's if you're suggesting the matter should be deferred so you can provide some amended plans to council.
Okay, yes, correct. Yeah.
That address the concerns.
Yeah.
Well, in that respect, let me ask you this question before I open it up to the panel.
Yes.
Would you be willing to address the fundamental concerns that that the report of council has, which is the retention of the trees, the solving of the stormwater problem, the quantity of development on the site, i.e. the size of what you're proposing, the nature of the basement, the functionality of the basement. I mean, it's quite fundamental, I think, what the council has raised in their report. Are you willing to look at that? So not just look at it, but I mean, actually genuinely change things?
Yep.
In what way? Just to give the panel some comfort that you might be willing to do that.
Okay, very simply, I guess we would still need specifically T2s and T3 to be removed, obviously for the building, but there are the two other trees that can be retained into the development. The size of the building will be reduced to match the FSR and the calculation that council are recommending, and I think they raised some setback issues as well, which we would have to comply with, and that would be complied with, obviously. And with the stormwater, the actual stormwater engineer obviously has a solution that he would like to propose to council engineers, and he actually has multiple solutions, but again, it has to happen within the two engineers' discussion to talk amongst themselves. And it does involve reducing the basement or redesigning the basement, and also looking at the street, the building data that's on the site, that's on the street there, to have some amendment to or redesign into that as well.
I think there's also a key issue of reducing the amount of development on the site. It's not just reducing the number of trees you remove. I think it's reducing the amount of development. Is that something you're willing to consider or do?
Yes. What we're actually forced to anyway, because we're over the FSR, and I think we had some setback issues, so we will be having to reduce the size of the total development anyway in terms of. Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
I'll ask the rest of the panel whether they have any particular questions for you.
Not from me.
No. Okay. Anyone else?
No.
No.
No question.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. We'll bear that in mind, and perhaps we'll now speak to Nadia Hussain, who I think is the actual owner. Is that right? The applicant?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. If we can have Nadia. Thank you.
Do I need to do anything to mute myself, or how does it work?
I think you'll be muted by someone else.
Okay. All right.
Thanks. And just whilst we're waiting, panel, we do have another speaker now for the fourth item, 296 Forest Road, Hurstville, which is Joseph Arnott, just for your information.
Hello.
Hello, Nadia. Can you hear me? I'm Sue Francis, the panel chair. Can you hear me?
Just deactivate it again.
Can you hear me, Nadia? Check you're not on mute on your buttons.
There we go. It's been unmuted now, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Nadia. You'll have 3 minutes to
Yeah,
make your
hi.
representation.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss this matter with the panel and the council representatives today. So we do have plans to develop at my property, and we've tried to work with council as far as we have been allowed to so far in terms of discussion that we've been able to have with them to comply with all the regulations around the build. I'm definitely not an expert in that matter. The issue that I've had personally, and I don't have any issues with trees. I bought the property knowing the trees were there, and I love nature. There's no issue with having trees on the property. Besides the fact that after living there for a couple of months, I started having real, very, very serious issues with them, which sort of made me, I have all very concerned with the safety of my family and having these trees so close to the house. So one of the trees is only a metre away from my front porch. And the other one is right at the side of my daughter's bedroom. We've had massive branches, regardless of the pruning and maintaining these trees, we've had very healthy branches which were not allowed to be pruned, falling all over the driveway. We're very lucky that at all times that these massive branches fell and broke, things on my property, like my children's bikes were broken and whole lots of other stuff. The last case was in November. I had a massive branch fall through, break my tiles on the top of my house. And the branch actually fell through the jub book in my bedroom, and I ended up with jub book in my baby's cot. This is considering that these trees have been maintained. They're just really big. We have very volatile weather and branches are falling. So as I said, we're lucky so far that we've managed to escape any real harm that's been caused to anything besides property. But there is definitely the potential there that there's going to be, people hurt down the track if my kids are playing outside. We've gone as far as to move out when these things have happened or the weather's very bad, just to make sure that me and the kids are safe. So I don't know what more I can do to keep my family safe from these trees. We would like to develop regardless of the development. I do have very serious concerns regarding the safety of me, the kids, my pets, having these trees on the property. So as much as we can, we'd love to work with council on this development. But I can't get my head around, having discussed this with council so many times and had representatives from the council come out and speak to me about this. I just can't get my head around the fact that these trees appear to be more important than the safety of my family at the moment. And I don't seem to be able to understand why that's the case. And that's a separate issue from this development. In terms of development, we're happy to obviously comply with everything that needs to be complied with the council.
Okay, Nadia, perhaps I can ask you a question. From reading the officer's report, I note that a request to the council has given a permit to lop some of the branches, either to the previous owner or to the current owner. Have you done any lopping of the trees that exist on the site? Yes. You have?
Yes, since
okay.
I've been there, yes. We've got one due to come out now, very, very soon. Actually, he was meant to come out last week, but I don't know, I think it was a COVID-related issue, wasn't able to come out last week. But yes, since I've moved there, at least twice we've had the trees pruned. But with the pruning permit that we had, we weren't able to do much, but yeah, they complied with the permit that I had at the time. But look, honestly, I mean, I've got images that I've sent to the council. There's big branches that are falling. The entire roof of my house is covered by the canopy of the trees. I know you're allowed, only families that recently 10% can be reduced and whatnot. But I mean, just at the height that they're falling, healthy branches, and they're building momentum when they drop 30 metres. And they're big branches that are falling, so it doesn't matter. Healthy branches, I'm sure. I mean, as I said, I'm not an expert in building. I'm not an arborist, but I just know what I experienced when I lived there. They're big, healthy branches falling from very, very high height, and they're getting momentum as they're dropping, and they're smashing things when they hit the ground. And they're smashing my tiles, and they're breaking my roof open, and they're smashing my kids' bikes. And I'm just very grateful that, it's just very lucky that we haven't been around when these things have happened. But I've come home to them.
Yeah, I think we've heard your issues about the trees. Thank you. I'll just ask the panel whether they got any particular questions with the owner? No.
Just one question, Madam Chair, and this goes to the point that Wagi made as well about being a little bit surprised around the recommendation that the assessment report says that there were some issues raised with you in October 2021, concerns around the planning, design, engineering issues, and with a request to withdraw the application. So did you take that to be a signal that there were some problems with the application?
I did definitely speak to Ajay about that, because I thought, you know, everything should have complied. We should have had everything meeting every single criteria that was necessary. So if, you know, trees were going to be the issue, that should have been the only thing that was pointed out. So we've had some discussions on that. But my feedback from the experts is that everything can be addressed. We can work around all the stormwater issues. We've been back to the engineer since that report came out, and the engineer has come back with a solution. And that was, we discussed all that before requesting, you know, that this is probably, you know, if we can have this looked at again, because it appears that everything in that report, even though the feedback was, you know, there were a lot of things wrong with the application that needed to be addressed, it seems the feedback that I'm getting from the experts that I'm, you know, hiring to look at these things, everybody's saying that all the other issues that the council thinks have can be addressed. Obviously, the trees are not something that are going to go away without getting permission. So that's the only thing that we really, you know, and I just feel so strongly about the fact that they're not safe that I'm hoping that we can work around that one. But in terms of development-wise, yeah, we can definitely, you know, work with you guys on that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no more questions, thank you very much, Nadia. We'll take that in all those points into account. And what we will do now is we'll move on to the next item, which is 1034 Forest Road, Lugano. And I have Ray Philpott who wants to make representations. Could we have Ray on the line, please?
Still trying to unmute, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Kath, it may be worthwhile just having the person removed from the meeting and calling them back again.
We were just discussing that.
That might be the option because it was working when we called them before.
And in the meantime, if we can get Susanna Garcia, we can speak to her first and then Ray, perhaps.
This is
Hello.
Hi, Ray. You're on with the panel. Sorry about that.
Hi, Ray. You've got your time. Make the most of it now so we don't lose you.
okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and panel. Look, in relation to my point in relation to this particular development, I mean, whilst I've lived here for 20 odd years, and it is quite a big building. But in any event, my issue is, and I've read through all the reports, and what I noticed on page 56 of submissions in the public interest, the 1.8 metre boundary fence had been noted. But the thing is, when I stand at my back door in my main living area, there's about an extra 400 to 500 mil hedge along that fence, which is a morea, goes right along past the where the proposed cabana is. I'm talking about building D2, which is the southern side of the building. So where the proposed cabana is, right along to where that pool is, there's a break in the fence which goes to townhouse number 1. But it's that area there I'm talking about. If I stand inside my back door here, our floor level takes away that 400 or 500 mil, and if on the basis that moray is cleared out, I can see straight into that backyard. So my point in my original submission, I've missed that back on the 4th of March, was to raise that fence to 1.8, but it was already at 1.8. So in the note that I sent to council a couple of days ago, or to the panel a couple of days ago, I'm looking for a 500 mil extension of the fence to block that area out. If you can understand what I mean.
Just so I'm absolutely clear which area you're referring to, you are at, what's your address?
Townhouse number 2.
Right, which is 1036.
Sorry.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm at the rear of, we've got townhouse number 1, townhouse number 2, and then there's a villa beside us, which is unimpacted. So looking at the plans, if you happen to have them in front of you, the proposed cabana for D2 and pool area is what I'll be looking at from our back door and and living area.
It's the rear cabana, open space area, which is on the south southern side of the boundary, southwestern side.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I mean that area there, like I said, if the existing morea is taken away, which the development plans appear to do, I'll be able to see right into the backyard.
Okay. All right.
That hedge was put up some years back at the request of our neighbours next door, and we're fine with that, but that's under different conditions now. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll ask the panel if they have any particular questions of you. Right. Panel? No. Shaking of heads?
No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that, Ray. We'll bear that in mind and we'll raise that with the applicant, see what they say. Oh, actually, we don't have the applicant. Okay. No. Thanks. Thanks. Susanna Garcia, are you there? Can you be unmuted?
Madam Chair, I think I'll remove Suzanne and call her back in.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, this is.
Hello.
Hi, Sue. Yep, you're on with the panel.
Oh, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I must say to you that I'm very nervous. I have never done anything like this before. And also this matter is extremely important to both myself and my family. So our main concern is that the report does acknowledge that the proposed development breaches the solar access control, and it's this part that's giving us great concern, because we will lose all of our northern lights, and and this is in our primary living area, so it's not as if it's in a bathroom or a bedroom, it's our primary living area. And it's such an important part of the home, and in our lounge room, we only have one window, which will be obviously impacted enormously. And then we have our living area, which is at the front. So we're in townhouse 1 at 1036. So what we're also asking is the fact that we would like the panel to consider the fact that the breach of the solar access, but also maybe, and we know the development's fine and it has to go ahead, there's no problem there, but to ensure that we still have some quality of life there, we would ask perhaps that there be an additional sort of setback on the first floor there, so that we do actually receive some light and that it will then achieve compliance. Because also that whole development takes the maximum floor space of what is allowed there. And yet by doing that, this is having a huge impact on us, and we've lived here for like 28 years. So it's going to change everything enormously, and unfortunately not for the better. I did send council some photos in March last year when I put my first submission in, showing how beautiful the light and the warmth and the sun and everything is in these rooms. So in order to then go now into darkness and not have any natural light is really quite, hard for us. And I'm sure that the panel, if this was happening and was going to have such a huge impact on them, I'm sure they'd be concerned. So I would just ask perhaps if you would be able to consider this, so that we do, first of all, that the developer does not breach the solar control, and but also so that we can continue to receive sufficient light and that into our main primary living area.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'll ask the panel if they've got any particular questions they might want to ask to clarify any of that. Shaking of head. No, thank you very much. We will consider this, Suzanne, when we deliberate after the closing of the meeting. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you.
So the next item I have on the agenda is 50 Thurlow, and I do have two speakers, Andrew Martin and Derek Eusebio. And do we have those people
Again,
on
Madam
the line?
Chair, I will remove and recall.
Fantastic.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Andrew. Yes, you're with the panel.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Okay, Andrew, you have the floor. Is there any particular questions you want to ask the panel or tell the panel about this application, which I think we understand?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry about that. I dropped out after.
No, look,
38
we're all dropping out.
waiting. Yes, so thank you, Madam Chair, and the panel. Andrew Martin, Town Planner, on behalf of the applicant. Council has before them, the panel has before them the report, which we think relevantly goes through the pertinent issues, recommends approval. There have been some conditions which the applicant has negotiated through the process, and Mr. Bruce Bouchard has negotiated through council. So yeah, we're accepting the report. We simply ask the panel to endorse the recommendation it has before it tonight. And any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you, Madam Chair.
There's one thing, Mr. Martin, that we did identify in our briefing, and that is the application was submitted on 50 Thurlow Street, Riverwood, and was advertised on 50 Thurlow Street Road, but the application also proposes works on the club, which are in Littleton Street. I think, is it 2 Littleton Street? And they weren't advertised, they weren't notified in accordance with council's policy. So we are just reviewing that to see whether with the appropriate process has been undertaken, because I think the application of 50 Thurlow Street is actually the blue area, the additional, rather than the alterations and additions.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was included, 1 in the application description and 2 in the notification. So we are looking into that. So I'm just putting you on notice that that may result in the need to notify the application properly.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, we're in your hands, of course. So we'll just see how that transpires.
Yes, exactly. Do we have any particular questions of Mr. Martin? No. I know that I have the architect here who may want to speak, or is he happy to have any questions asked, or does he want to make any representations? Do you know? We have him separately.
I'm unsure, Madam Chair, if we can maybe open the floor to the architect, and we haven't conversed on any particular item, so I think if he's got something. Then
he's not obviously not in the same room as you, which is one of my
no,
options.
no, that's right. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I'll dial in now, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, the panel.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Derek. You're on with the panel.
Hello, Derek. I don't know whether you heard your colleague Andrew and the panel on the live stream before, but if there's any particular matters you wish to raise, I think the panel is pretty clear as to what the application is, but if there's anything you'd like to highlight to the panel.
No, there's nothing further than that.
Okay, I did highlight to Mr. Martin that we are looking into the notification because of the way that the application was described, but we'll have to look into that ourselves, and I'm just putting on notice that might be a possibility.
Understood, yeah.
I'll just ask if there's any particular questions from anyone else? No. Thank you very much for that. So what we'll do is we'll move on to the next item. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, if we could call in Mr. Arnott from Earthleads.
Yes, apologies for that. The next item is 296 Forest Road, Hurstville, and we do have one speaker, that's Joseph Arnott on behalf of the applicant.
Hello.
Mr.
Joseph?
Arnott.
Yes, you're on with the panel.
You're on. Is there anything you want to explain to us about this application? I know we heard from you before in relation to the substantive site, and this is the small little bit. Is there anything you want to highlight to us?
So it's just 2 conditions that required amendments. I'm happy to take you through them.
Yes, please.
So number 5, liquor license. So where it says prior to the issue of construction certificate, we're hoping to change that to occupation certificate, which was consistent with the previous DA as well.
Hold on, I'm still scrolling to get to that condition. Hold on. There is a very large agenda on this one. My finger can't scroll quick enough. Hold on, bear with me.
All right.
5. Okay, 5, liquor license. So you want it prior to OC, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and then the last line there, just prior to the commencement of trade. So those changes were done under the main DA. It would just help to avoid the delay to the start of the fit-out works while the ILGA application is going through.
Okay, thank you for that. And the other condition you were interested in?
The other condition was 32, noise, closure of openings to outdoor areas.
Yep.
So that one.
Yep.
So it's not applicable because the bifolds are located within the land that applies to the previous DA, 2021-0291.
Yep.
So therefore, there's no bifolds on council's land. So
just remove the reference to bifolds. Just started openings to the outside area. Is that right?
Well, we're suggesting delete the condition.
Oh, okay.
So I believe that condition was included in the previous consent as well. So it's not relevant to this DA.
Okay, all right. We'll talk to council about that. Panel members, do you have any particular questions you might want to ask in relation to those conditions or anything else? That would be a no, I think. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Is it possible just to ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
About the previous DA.
Yeah.
So there was we're just going through our ILGA process. There was a number of conditions that weren't amended, despite us putting forward to the panel. I was just wanted to understand the reasoning for that.
You're assuming the panel can remember that far back. What it made?
Well, there was a number of conditions relating to compliance with the plan of management and the gaming plan of management that were prepared at the time. Now, there could be an instance where ILGA require updates to those plan of management, which would then mean an inconsistency with the consent. So we had council sort of support for changes to those conditions, but they weren't put as sort of amended by the panel. So
you mean that the panel did agree to those amendments, you think, but they weren't changed in the conditions, or you don't think the panel agreed to the staff recommendation? I don't recall. I do recall there was some changes, but
yeah, the panel didn't agree.
Right. Well, I can't recall why. But either way, I can't recall specifically. I mean, if you contact council, they may well be able to shed some light onto that. Okay. And I don't know how many panel members can recall specifically. No, heads are shaking. No, sorry, there've been too many in between.
Okay, no.
Sorry about that. Check with council staff. I'm sure they'll be able to shed some light to it. Either way, the conditions exist, and there is a mechanism to deal with any modifications to them if that's what you wish to try and do.
Yeah, we may put forward a modification then.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay,
thank you. Sorry about that. I don't think our brains stretch that far back to those sorts of details. Okay, thank you very much. So,
thank you.
With that matter now being finished, I will close the meeting at 4:47, and the panel, if we can go back onto the link, which is the first link we had on when we were doing our briefing.